Getting started with the DOM with Edidiong Asikpo.
All right. Hi, everyone. Like she already mentioned, my name is Edidiong Asikpo. I am a developer advocate at Hashnode, and today we'll be talking about getting started with the DOM. So there are certain things I want to cover in this talk today, which would be an overview into what the DOM is, the tree-like structure of the DOM, and also how to target and manipulate documents with JavaScript. So the first thing we'll talk about is an overview of the DOM. So, what is the DOM? I feel like the DOM is definitely an important topic, or is an important thing you need to know as a web developer, right? Because there are certain times where you definitely want to make your website more interactive or add certain functionalities that are not naturally available. So, if there's anything I want you to take away from this session today, I want you to just think of the DOM as a set of APIs, right? That is an essential part of making websites interactive. So I would quickly try to show you, just go to any website, probably go to Hashnode, right? And show you what or how the DOM works, so to speak. Remember I said DOM is a set of APIs that make your website interactive, or it plays like a strong part in making your website interactive. And by interactive, I mean if you click on something, this should happen, or if you reload a page, this should happen. That's pretty much what the DOM enables you to do. So for instance, this is the notifications page of my Hashnode account. I already opened it just so we could quickly go through it. And for instance, if I want to stop getting notified whenever somebody follows me, right, I just need to click on this and uncheck the button. But as you can see, when I click on this, nothing happens. There is no form of like, hey, you just did this, are you sure you want to do that? Like, there's no form of interaction on the website. But if I decide to click on enabling my notifications, right, if I click on the allow button, you'd see that there's a pop-up that says, hey, Hashnode wants you to allow notifications. So I can click on allow, right? So that's some kind of interaction that would have not been possible if we didn't manipulate that allow button to make it show an alert when we click on it. Another good example of DOM manipulation here would be the update button as well. So if I click on this update button, it's showing me something here, right? So that means we told the page that whenever somebody clicks on update, there should be an alert that shows that your preferences has been updated successfully. So that's like an overview of what the DOM does, so to speak. It makes your website more interactive, gives you an opportunity to be able to add extra functionalities, right, to your website. So now that you have a basic understanding of what the DOM is, I would go down into actually breaking it down, so you actually get the structure. Yes, we know that the DOM is an API that is used to make your website more interactive, or it plays a major part in making your website more functional. But how does it do this? How does it, how can you even target a particular document? How do you even manipulate it, right? And how is it even possible for you to target certain documents in order to manipulate it? That's what I'll explain here. So what the DOM does is it defines a logical structure of controlling HTML and starting information using the document object. By logical structure, what I mean is, if you Google the word logical, it means being able to if you Google the word logical structure rather, it means being able to assess something and manipulate something, right? So the DOM defines the way in which HTML or XML can be assessed and manipulated, right? And then it does this using the document object, which I would also explain. So I may have forgotten to mention, but the DOM means, so it's actually DOM, like you can see, and it means document. So here, it means document object model. That's D for document, O for object, and M for model. So it's basically an acronym for document object model. So what I'll do is try to explain what the document is, and also quickly explain what an object is. I'm assuming that people who are attending this session may already know what objects are in JavaScript, but I'll quickly go through that just in case there's anybody that doesn't understand what it means, right? And then when you understand what the document is and how objects work, you pretty much understand how the document object model works. So let's quickly let me quickly explain what the document is, right? So the document represents any web page loaded in the browser and serves as an entry point into the web page content. If this is confusing now, I'll definitely try to break it down. So let's try to focus on this part first, which says a document represents any web page loaded into the browser. So let me quickly go to the browser and show you what I mean. So I want to make this talk as like I want you to actually see it, right? I don't want to just say things and not let you understand it. So with everything I say, I either try to write code for it or just show it to you on the browser. So let's assume I go to cfe.dev right now. You see that this page, right, is loaded into a browser. So this browser is actually called a window. So that if you click on this, this is like a different window, right? And then you go to Streamer, it's a different window. If you go to Hashnote, this is a different window with a different web page. So the document is actually what's loaded into this particular window browser. I don't know if you get it. So again, there are like different windows, right? So if I want to add, let's say go to Google, for instance, google.com, not my email, so let's google.com. Okay, so let's we can just focus on cfe.dev. So I went to cfe.dev and then it loaded on a particular window. You know, these are different windows, right? And this web page here is what loaded into this window, right? But the web page is actually part of the documents, right? So it's loaded into a document. So let me take a step back. So a document is where the web page is loaded into. And then the web page is actually in a window. Again, these are different windows, right? And these different windows have web pages on them. These web pages are inside inside a document. So if you ever want to access anything in this document, you have to, sorry, if you ever want to access anything in this web page, you have to go through the documents first in order to access that. And that's where the document object comes in. So I will quickly go back to my slide just to show you what I meant. So I've covered what a document is, and I hope you understand that a document represents any web page loaded into a browser. So if I create any page today, once I load it into a browser, once it's loaded on a browser, it's loaded into a document, right? So it's any web page that is loaded on a browser, right? So now that you understand that, let's cover the other part, which says the document the document represents any web page that's loaded in the browser. Now let's cover this part, which says and serves as an entry point into the web page content. So if so let's say for instance you want to clean a window, right? And that window is a bit far from you. Maybe you're like not as tall as where the location of the window is. You probably need to keep something and then climb that window in order to access that window, right? You can't clean the window except you can actually reach the window. So that's pretty much what the DOM is. You can't do anything in the web page except you go through the DOM. So except you go through the document rather. So the document serves as an entry point, right? Or let's use another example. So let's say you want to sleep at home on your bed. If the door is not open, you can't go to your bed, right? So you have to pass through the door in order to enter your bedroom to sleep, right? So the document pretty much serves as an entry point into the web page content. So let me give you an example. Let me quickly explain what an object is, because this entry point is actually accessed via an object. If you are a JavaScript developer, which I'm assuming you are, I'll quickly go through what an object is. Maybe you already know this, but that's just a refresher for anybody that may or may not know the meaning of objects. So I'll quickly click an object. I call this object documents, right? And obviously it comes in like curly braces in JavaScript. And objects actually have like key value pairs, right? So the first key here would be, so let's say head. Let's assume you're just trying to create a normal thing, and this would be the title. And I also want to create a body, right? And in this body, I want the body to have a paragraph. And no, so that's in. So I want the body to have a paragraph. And this paragraph, I want the paragraph to be anything, maybe hello there, for instance. Right? And I also want the body to also have a header as well. and I'll name the header maybe JavaScript. that might not be a good name, but let's just go with JavaScript so we can quickly do this. So created an object and then we named it header. I'm wondering where the error is coming from. So we created an object and we called it header. Okay, so we've created a document called, so we've created an object called document, and now we want to access this object, for instance. It shouldn't have like a different. Okay, this is something that's in a second. Definitely something wrong with this. Shouldn't do that. Okay, let me try to quickly reload this page. It might be something wrong with this website because I think that should work. So just give me some minutes. But basically what I'm trying to explain here is that if you want to access a particular thing, you need to find like the main source of that thing, right? And then from that source, you can access other parts in the document. So, oh yeah, now this has finished reloading. So let's do this. Okay, so I guess it's working well now. Yeah, perfect. It's working well. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with rep for some reason, right? So we've created an object called document, and then this object has a head and a body. So if you want to access, so let's say we want to get the head, for instance, right? What would we do? We definitely need to go to the body, sorry, to the documents first, and then we access the head. So if we do console.log head, for instance, and run it, you'd see that it's going to say undefined. And this doesn't work. You see, head is not defined. This is an error. But if we say document dot head, you'd see that you actually get title, right? So you see that it's printing out title. So what that means is, in order for you to access anything inside this place, you definitely need to go to the documents first before you can access the head. And that's pretty much how the web page works. So in order for you to change anything on this web page, you need to go to the documents first before you access the web page. So if I want to change paragraphs, for instance, I would say document.getElement paragraph. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So if I want to access the body, for instance, I would say document.body. And if I run this, you'd see, yeah, can you hear me?
Hey friends, I was just wondering if you could switch to your other mic for us. We can hear a bit of feedback on the one that you're on at the moment. I'm not too sure whether it's in the interweb somewhere or if it's on your side.
Okay. So is this better?
It sounds a bit better at the moment. Let's go with that and see how we go. Is that okay?
Okay, but I hope you heard me at some point, right? Or do I have to like start all over again?
No, it was just the background. With this mic, I think your mic might be in the cable of your earphones, so maybe just it slightly away from your clothing.
Okay, let me try to move that away from my clothing. So I guess this should be fine.
Yes.
Is this okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, just don't let the mic touch anything. I think that would be good.
That's hard, but sure, I will try to do that.
Yeah, so just carry on from where you were. We heard everything. It was just there was a bit of feedback or something in the background, but no, you're good to go now.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. Yeah, so like I was saying, if you want to access the body, you'd say document.body, and you see that it's giving you back the paragraph and the header. But what if you want to just get the paragraph? So you'd say document and go to body and go to paragraph, right? So what you do here is document.paragraph. And then it gives it to you. So if we run this, you'd see that it's showing hello there. So that means, first of all, we had to go to the documents first. And in the document, what did we want? We wanted the body, so we went to the body first. And in this body, we didn't just want every single thing in the body. We wanted the paragraph, so we go to the paragraph. So if you try to do, so let's say, for instance, you do document the body without going to the body first, right? So you've skipped the body and just go like, okay, hey, I've gone into the house. I don't want to pass through the parlor, for instance. I just want to go into the house and just appear on the bed automatically. That will not work. So if you do document the paragraph, you'd see that it's saying undefined. So this is pretty much how objects work in JavaScript, and it's important for you to understand this when you want to manipulate the DOM, because this is basically what we do. This is basically how you manipulate the DOM. And you see, when we actually go straight into writing code for the DOM, you see how this comes to play. So for every single thing you need to do, you need to access the documents first in order to get in other places. So I hope that you now understand what the document object is. So that document object is pretty much what the document object model is. First of all, it gives you an opportunity to access anything in the document through the document object. So I hope you understand that. So we'll just go right into explaining what the DOM tree is, which is the next session. So the DOM, remember I said the DOM forms like kind of logical structure at which things or at which elements are displayed or are accessed in order to be manipulated. So the way it does this is that it represents it like a tree, right? So you know how we have like a tree with different branches, right? And then sometimes in a particular branch, there are like more branches. So that's what the DOM does. It represents HTML elements as a tree, where each node is an object representing part of the document. This might be confusing now, but I'm definitely going to explain. So this is simple code, right? And you can see this code is like HTML tag, which is like the main tag, right? And then the head and the body is inside the HTML. Then inside the head, there is a title. So if you remember what I just explained about objects, if you want to access the title, what would we do? We'd say HTML.head.title. We can't say HTML.title, right? So that's what it defines it in such a way that it looks like a family tree. I don't know if everybody ever did biology, but there was something that we studied in biology where I tried to explain the family tree, right? So let's assume I had it. Okay, let's think about your parents, for instance. So your father and your mother, you know how to say the father is the head of the house. So you have your father and then you have your mother, right? And then you have siblings. So your father and the mother are like the top of the tree, and you and your siblings are like the next part of the tree. If you give birth to children, that means you're like under the tree as well. So it now shows like the father, the children, the grandchildren. That's pretty much what the DOM is as well. So as you can see here, let's quickly switch between the two slides. So the first one here is the HTML code. So what it shows here is HTML is actually the first thing. So if you want to access the body or the head, you need to go to the HTML first, convert it into a tree. And as you can see, the title is inside the head, right? So it's now saying, okay, hey, inside this title, inside the head, there is a title. If you go back, you see that in the body tag, we have the paragraph and the header. So you come back here, you'd also see that it didn't make the paragraph be under the header, right? Since there are child elements inside the main body element. So that's pretty much how we convert HTML documents into a tree-like structure so that you'll be able to access it. Because if it is not broken down like this, there is no way you'll be able to access the H3 header tag directly from HTML. So when you understand that it breaks it down into a tree, you know that if you want to access something inside the head tag, you need to pass through the head first, right? And if you want to access something inside the P tag, you need to pass through the P tag first. That's like pretty much how we convert HTML into a tree-like structure so that you can easily access it with the document object. So now that we've covered an overview of what the DOM is, just a quick recap. The DOM is a set of APIs that help you manipulate and help you increase interaction between your website. And it turns HTML document into a tree-like function or a tree-like structure so that you can easily access different things. Example, if you have a header tag first, which has a title, and you want to change the title, you need to go through the head, which is like the top one, and then from the head, you now access the title. Yeah, so there are so many things you can do with the DOM, so many things. But this talk is basically centered around getting you started with the DOM. So we may not necessarily cover like every single thing you can do with the DOM. And I think it's ideally not necessarily possible to know every single thing off heart. But that's why Google is here, right? You can easily Google things that you don't really know yet. But just understanding how the DOM works and how to do like the basic, most important things is really important. And that is some of the things we'll cover in this talk. So I'm going to cover how to add and how to change and remove HTML elements, changing CSS styles, and also using events as well via the DOM. All right. So before we go into that, there are two things you definitely need to take note of. So the DOM uses something called, like, there's a DOM programming interface which is made up of like the DOM methods and DOM properties. So the DOM methods are the actions you can perform with the HTML elements, right? So let's say you want to find every HTML tag that is a paragraph, right? So that's what kind of actions you want to perform with this HTML element. You want to access every diffs, you want to access all the paragraphs, you want to access all the images. That's what HTML DOM methods give you, right? But then, so when you now access these different elements, what do you want to do with it? This is what HTML properties does. This may not make a lot of sense now, but when we try to write the code, hopefully it should. So let me quickly show you a code snippet. So this is a code snippet, right? Which we say we define a function called my function. And what we want to do here, we're trying to target a particular element, right? And then the ID of this element is called demo. So as you can see, the method here is document.getElement by ID. Remember, we explained what what objects are. And in order for you to access something in a particular object, you need to go to the root. And the root of every web page is the document. So that's what shows here as document dot. So that means you need to start with document, which is what we explained, right? Remember, web pages are loaded into a document. And if you want to access anything in that document, so if you want to access anything in that web page, you need to pass through the document. So that's why we always have to call documents first. So document dot whatever you want. So in this case, now we want to get a particular ID, particular element with the ID named demo. So we're going to do document dot get element by ID, and then we'll pass the ID that we need, which is called demo in this case. And then the property is, what do you want to do with this element, right? So you've been able to use the method to find a particular element. What do you want to do? Do you want to change it? Do you want to change that element? Do you want to set the element? What do you want to do? That's what properties give you. So that's pretty much what you need in terms of manipulating the DOM. That's all. And like I said, you may not necessarily know all of these things off heart, but it's always easy to Google them, as long as you know that you need a HTML DOM method first before you get to actually use like a DOM property. Those are the important things. So let's actually start writing code. I know we've been doing a lot of talking as developers.
Hi everyone, it's Suze again. I'm just going to try and find out where Edidiong has disappeared to. But in the meantime, please post in the chat. Let us know what your level of expertise with JavaScript is and whether you have actually manipulated the DOM before and what you've used. When I learned how to do it, I used jQuery, so that tells you how long ago that was. Please bear with us and we will get back to you shortly. Thank you for your patience. And if you did not answer my question earlier about where you are and how warm it is there, please let us know, because in London at the moment, it is unseasonably warm. It has reached 30 degrees Celsius recently, which for you folks in the US, I think is about 85 Fahrenheit. So let us know where you are.
And along while you're watching this video, just quickly go to your VS Code if you have it and type in HTML:5, right? So let me try to do that again, just in case you missed it. So yeah, this is what it gives you. And I want to change the title to, let's say, changing.
Sorry, just back up a little bit, because actually you lost connection for about two minutes there. And we didn't see anything. You were, last I saw, you were on that slide, and then yeah. So I don't know what happened, but your connection totally went back and went off.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so you were on this slide, and you were like, okay, we're going to code. No, the next one.
Oh, okay. The coding slide. Okay, yeah. So, okay, cool.
Yeah, let's go from there. Sorry.
All right, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so when I was on this slide, apparently you all lost me. But what I was trying to say is, let's actually delve into coding. I know I've been talking a lot and trying to explain different things, which I hope you understand. So now that you understand what the DOM is, the document object model, let's try to actually implement it with code. And one of the things I said was, you know how you finish learning, let's say you're a code, a newbie, for instance, and you want to be a web developer, you're advised to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Ideally, you would learn these things separately, right? So you definitely start with HTML first, and then you move over to CSS, and then you're like, okay, hey, it's finally time to learn JavaScript. But one of the issues people have is, how do I mix all of these things up? How do I mix the JavaScript that I've learned with the HTML, right? How do I mix up HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? So that's one of the things that DOM also gives you an opportunity to do, understanding how to actually mix up the JavaScript you learned, right? So like objects you've learned separately in JavaScript, how do you use objects in when you want to build a web page that contains HTML and CSS? So I will try to cover those things now. So what I did was I also explained that I use an abbreviation called emit. So if you want to create a simple HTML part, what you just do is type in HTML:5. As you can see, it's already bringing it out as an option. So if I click on that, you see it automatically generates the basic things you need to know about HTML, like, right? I mean, it's fine to know this thing off heart and literally type it, right? But I think developers, we always want something that will make it easier for us to code and like write. So this is a good thing to use. So what I'll do here is change the title to maybe changing the DOM, since that's what we want to do first. And I will try to, so if I go to my next slide, I think I need to zoom this a bit. I don't know if there's a way to still present this. Okay, so I've zoomed that. So like I explained earlier, manipulating the DOM involves using methods and properties, right? So like methods are what you want to do with the DOM, or like how you assess the particular DOM, for instance, right? The actions you want to perform to an element, while the properties are, okay, to that element that you want to perform something to, what do you want to do to it? So we'll pretty much explain those things further. You get to see like a real life example of using these things that I've been explaining since. Yeah, so the first thing we want to do is we want to change an HTML element. So in order to do that, we obviously need to have an already existing element, right? But you now say, oh, hey, let me change this element. So let's quickly create, let's say, a paragraph that says, do you like JavaScript? Yeah, and I saved that. So let me quickly go there so you can see everything that's happening from the beginning. Yeah, so you can see that it's showing do you like JavaScript here. Oh, well, now I wrote some CSS. So I'll just quickly add a link to my CSS here. So this talk is not to teach you CSS. I'll definitely not be explaining that. So I'll just add the CSS that I already created to the space. Index.css. All right, well, oh shit. All right, cool. So if you reload this, CSS should definitely show by now. All right, perfect. So again, remember we want to change an element, right? So this is the already existing element, but we want when we click on something, we want the element to change, right? So that would obviously mean we need to create a button. So that once you click on the button, something changes. So since the first question was, do you like JavaScript? Maybe the button should be click me to find out. That's weird. Well, let me just say find out, I guess. Right, so if I save this and reload the page, you'd see that it's saying, hey, do you like JavaScript? And if I click on find out, nothing happens, right? And this is what it is. The DOM would enable you make something happen when you click on this page. But right now, without the DOM, you'd see that if we click on find out, absolutely nothing happens. So let's see how we can actually make the DOM do something to the button. So every time we click on the button, the previous text there would change. So we need to create like a script. This is where we'll add our JavaScript. Ideally, it would be like best practices would say you should create like a different JS file where you add like your JavaScript there and then just link it up here. That's pretty much what I did with CSS, right? I created like a different CSS file here and just linked it up. So if you want to do that as well, feel free to create like a different JavaScript file and just code along. But for the purpose of this talk, I'm trying to just make everything be in one place so you don't get confused, and I'm not switching to different tabs. So I hope you can see the website. Okay, I think this is big enough. All right, cool. So the first thing we need to do is we need to decide, okay, what do we want to do? Remember, we want to change a particular paragraph, right? And if I go back to my slide, you see that there are different ways to do this. You can either target the ID, target the tag, or target the class. So ID would be this. So if I want to target the ID, I'll have to give this an ID of, let's say, text, for instance. So if I want to target this particular ID, I would use document.getElements by ID and then pass this ID. But if I want to target the tag, I would just say document.getElement by tag name and pass in P. But if I want to pass in the class, class has things to do like CSS. So class would be, if I want to give this object, this button a class, right? I would say class and then add like a random name to it, right? But then we don't want to do that right now. So let's just focus on using document.getElement by ID. Cool. So like you can see, it says document.getElement, the description is used to find an element by the element's ID. So we'll try that. But I would create a function. So let's create a function called change element. Okay, so I should also mention that, okay, I'm gonna make a mistake there. Okay, so this is a way of creating functions in like using the arrow function format, but this is equivalent to just saying function change element, like the normal way of writing it. But this is definitely like a newer and like better way to write it, but feel free to use any one of your choice. You can either write it like this or you can write it like this, but I think I'm definitely now used to writing it using arrow functions. All right, cool. So I created a function called change element, right? And what do I want to do in this function? I want to target a particular ID, in this case, which is text. So what I would say here is document. And remember, the reason why we're calling documents first is the web page is loaded into a document. Remember how we explained objects. So I want to do something to the paragraph, right? So I need to go to the documents first before I can access that paragraph, right? And just to explain again, this do you like JavaScript and find out button is a web page which is loaded into a document. So right now, that's why we're calling documents first. I'll say document.getElement by ID. Just go back to my slide so you can see it. And because you can see, it says this method is document.getElement by ID into bracket ID. So you actually pass in the ID you want to target. And in this case, the ID I want to target is this paragraph, which has an ID of text. So what I'll do here is pass in text, right? Cool. And then we need to use like a property. So again, just to refresh your memory, methods are the actions you can perform to an HTML element. And in this case, this is the action we want to perform. We want to target a paragraph. While properties are the values of that HTML element you want to change or set. And what do we want to change, right? We want to change the inner HTML. So we want to change the paragraph, right? Something like that. So if I go to this, let me go back to my website. Okay, cool. So what we want to change is this paragraph here, which is called an inner HTML, so to speak. So if I go back to my slide, so where we have the different things we're trying to work on, quickly do this. I should zoom out a bit so you can see it clearly. Okay. All right, so you can see element.innerHTML is actually used to change the inner HTML of an element. And that's pretty much what we want to do. We want to change an already existing element to look like something else. So there was already context, which was, do you like JavaScript? But I want every time you click on this button, it should change to whatever I want it to be. So I would now say dot inner HTML equals anything, right? So do I like JavaScript? Maybe no, even though, well, it's like sometimes I like it and sometimes I don't. All right, so that's like what we want. So what we're saying is, for this particular, targeting this particular element called a paragraph with an ID called text, which is this. And in that paragraph, what you want to do, you want that every time you click on something, it should change to no. So what we'll do here is, if you go back to my browser now and reload this, you'd see that it's not going to change yet because we have not passed this function that I've created into the button. But if I do onClick, so onClick is an event handler, right? So it says every time this event happens, something should happen. And the event we're trying to pass here is every time a user clicks on this button, whatever the function is, it should actually implement that function. So I would call the function which we've already created here, which is, I'm trying to zoom this. So this function is change element, right? Cool. So we've called the change element function. And if you go back to the website now and reload, and then you see it's still showing, hey, do you like JavaScript? And if I click on find out, it's showing no, right? So what we've been able to do here is we've been able to target a particular ID, which is text here, which is the paragraph. And we're now saying anytime you click on this particular, anytime you click on the button, it should change that paragraph that was already there in this ID to no, right? So that's what the DOM allows you to be able to do, which this would have naturally not been possible if you did not manipulate it, if you did not target it first and manipulate it. So the DOM is pretty much about knowing what you want to target and knowing what you want to do to it. So first of all, you need to target it. And how do you target it? By going through the documents first, then identifying which of the elements you want to target, which in this our case is the paragraph. And when you've identified that particular element, you now say, okay, hey, this is what I want to happen to that element. And in our case now, what we wanted to do was to change the content of that particular element, which we've been able to successfully do. So feel free to drop questions if you have, and like she said, I'll answer it at the end of the session. So that's pretty much it. So let me just go through it again. If you click on the find out button, it says no. So yeah, now we've been able to cover how to like change an HTML element with the DOM. So another thing we could do is try to add elements, right? So you would have like a page which did not have any element for, and you can also use the DOM to add that, right? Which is pretty cool. So let's use, let's go down to the next slide. I think contains stuff like that. Yeah. So as you can see here, it has, again, you may not know all these methods off heart, but just understanding how to use them is the important one. So if you ever need something, you can't remember it, it's fine to quickly Google the particular document object you want and find it. So here we want to add an element. So that what we mean is there will probably not be an already existing element. And if you, let's say maybe click on a button or just reload your page, that element is added automatically. So again, we'll create the HTML. If you're following along, you can just quickly do HTML5, and then it automatically generates it for you. So you don't have to stress yourself to write all of them. So we name this add, for instance. And what we want to do is add like a new paragraph. So let's create a div with already existing paragraphs, like the DOM is cool. Let me expand this so you can see it clearly. So the DOM is cool. Then create another paragraph called let's say JavaScript is cool, I guess. So JavaScript is cool. And yeah, so that is fine. So if we go to this page now, what we've created, you'd see that, yeah, it's showing the DOM is cool and JavaScript is cool as well. So as you can see, we only have two paragraphs on this page. So let's try to use the DOM to add like another paragraph. So again, we're going to create our script, add the script style. Like I mentioned earlier, feel free to create a separate JavaScript file for this. And what we'll do is create a variable that uses document.create element. So we'd say const, let's say paragraph, because we want to create like another paragraph. So const paragraph equals document. And remember I said document is how you access any single thing on the web page. So you always have to call documents first. So document dot what do you want to do? And I want to create. So now say create element. Again, you may not know all these things off heart. So just knowing how it works is good. So you could quickly Google it. So document.create element, and which element do you want to create? I want to create a paragraph. So I would add p to it. Cool. So if we do console.log now, you see that a paragraph has been created, even though it may not show on the web page yet because we need to append it. But let's just try that out and see if the it's going to show. So you're going to reload this page and quickly inspect it. So if we go to console now, you see that we have created a paragraph is showing, right? So that means we have already been able to create a paragraph with the DOM. So what we now need to do is now apply another DOM method that will make it display on the page. But I hope you can see that just with document.create elements, we're able to create like a different page with just this line of code, right? That shows you how powerful the DOM is. And trust me, this is just like the basic part. There's like so much more you can do, right? So now that we've been able to create a DOM, we're now able to create a paragraph. We need to content to that paragraph, obviously. So we'll now create another variable, for instance, and say maybe content. Let's just name it content. And what we'll use here is document dot create text node. So text node basically adds text to whatever the parent node is. So now I'm saying create this text node, and what do I want to be part of the paragraph? So remember, first of all, I've created a paragraph, but there's nothing in that paragraph. So what I want to do is add a particular text to the paragraph. So that's what create text node does. So I'm going to say document.create text node. It could be anything. I think I've definitely lost ideas on what to write. Maybe, okay, I think hash node is cool. Hash node is cool. So I want this text to be inside this paragraph. Then there's another method that basically appends two different elements together. And that's called append child. So remember, this is the first thing the first thing I did. I created a paragraph. And what I want to do now is add a contents to that paragraph, right? So I'm going to say paragraph, that's like the parent element dot append child, and then passing content. So just to explain this again in case you're lost. So the first thing we did is we created an element using document.create element. Then we added we created another element called hash node is cool. What this is pretty much like the text we want to add to the paragraph tag rather. So now that we've done that, okay, let me just comment this out so you can actually see the entire process. Let me comment this out first, and let's go back and see if hash node is cool is also showing there as well. So you can see that it's just a text node because we have not appended it inside something. It's not showing, right? So what we need to now do is append that hash node is cool that we have created into this paragraph tag. So what we'll now do is let's uncomment this, save, and quickly reload. So now you've seen that it's showing the hash node is cool is now inside the paragraph tag, right? Because we've appended it using the append child method. So now we've appended it and we've been able to successfully create a paragraph that has hash node is cool, but we've not been able to put that paragraph inside the div yet. So let's now apply what we learned when we're trying to target a particular element here in order to target the div and put in that paragraph inside it. So if you want to do that, let's create like another variable, for instance, and now call it the new paragraph. So remember how do you target a particular element? I want to target it by the ID. So we just need to give this a quick ID. So we'll call this maybe the main div, I guess. The main div. And let me quickly copy that because we're trying to target this particular div, right? So that's why I'm giving it an ID. So I'll come here and then I'll say document again because everything is in a document. And what do I want to do? I'm using a particular DOM method that would target a particular element, which in this case is the div. So I'll say get element by ID, and what is the ID of that element I want to target? My main div, right? So now I've been able to target the div, and I want to add this paragraph inside the div. So I would also use the append child to append this paragraph inside the main div. So append, just like the name implies, basically append something to another thing. So whatever it is. So if I want to append maybe a text inside a button, I just need to say button.append child text. That's what it is. So in this case, I want to append the text here, sorry, the paragraph inside a div. So I will call the div and say, let's say new paragraph dot append child paragraph. Right. Okay. So what I did here was this is the place I want to append this paragraph to. So I definitely need to call like the main div. So I'm calling the div. I'm saying, hey, I want to append this paragraph to this div. So I'm like new paragraph, which is the div that we targeted, right? Which has an ID of the main div. And I'm saying, okay, hey, append this paragraph that I've created to the div. So if we go back to our page now, I think I should definitely link up the CSS because it looks a bit weird. Link file, maybe rev index.css, the real file. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our page and cancel this and reload the page. So you see now we've automatically added another paragraph inside the DOM, inside something that was not already existing. So remember we had just two paragraphs. Let me just try to like comment this out so you can just like get a clear picture of what we just did. So if I comment this out and come back here and reload, you see that we have two paragraphs, right? But I've been able to use like different methods and documents of the DOM to add a new paragraph. So if I reload this page now, you see that it adds like another paragraph, right? So there are so many things that can be done with the DOM. I can see that I've pretty much gone past my time.
Thanks for watching.